Right guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one I'm just going to be showing you how to change the rear wheel bearings in your Prime version 2 carbon Clincher rear wheel. So, one of these. So let's go ahead, let's run through the steps. So we have the hub. So this uses it's quick release and it's a RR-38, just in case you're wondering what the hub is. So the first thing we need to do is remove the end cap off of the drive side, obviously after you've removed your cassette. So what you want for that is a 5mm hex head Allen key, and then you want another one 5mm on the non-drive side. So just put that in, and all we're doing is holding the non-drive side and then undoing the end cap off this side, so it's anti-clockwise to undo it like that. So you should be able to undo it pretty easy, and then just carry on winding off the end cap, and there you see it, it's just threaded on like so. Now after you've done that, your free up body, just pull that off like that. Be careful, there's a spacer collar in there as well. Sometimes it gets stuck in the end of there like that, or sometimes it's just left on the axle. So remove that out of the way, and then we'll move on to removing the non-drive side. Right, so to remove the opposite side end cap, what you need to do is get yourself a 10mm hex head and locate it in the end of the axle on the drive side, and then using your 5mm hex head on the opposite side, put that in the end cap like that, and then you can undo whichever one. You can hold one and undo the other one, or vice versa. So you can just hold on to this side and undo the non-drive side. So again, that's anti-clockwise for undoing this side. So just undo that one off there like that. So I'll just show you from this side. Once you've got it loosened, you just hold on the axle with your hand, and you can undo that off of there. So if you take the cap right off, and you got a washer cover on there as well, just on the end of there, which will come off. Should come off like that. You should be able to get behind it and just get that off like that. Then you can see the bearing in there, and also the bearing down in there. So we'll go ahead, let's get the bearing out of that side first. So to remove the bearing out of the left hand side first, what we got here is 2 blocks equal heights of wood on a hard surface. Now I'm showing you like this so you can do the job at home yourself. You don't need any special tools to do it with. If you've got a vice with some soft jaws in the vice, then you can obviously rest the wheel down in the vice like that. Like I say, I'm just showing you so you can just do the job yourself at home with no special tools at all. So we located it in between like that and just rested it there, obviously using blocks of wood to avoid any damage to spokes or anything, or the hub. You see the axle sticking up there out of this would be the drive side where your free up would go. So you want a soft blow hammer, a mallet, rubber mallet, give that a tap, and the axle will come down out of the opposite side with a bearing on it. Like so. You see the bearing on there. So all you do now is just pull the axle all the way through, so the axle comes out like that, and then all you do, this bearing on the end there, you just pull that off like that. So what we do now is obviously need to get the bearing out of the drive side, so we flip that over, and you just put it on one block of wood for that, like so. You rest it down there like that, and then you can see down in the middle there, you can see the bearing down in the middle. So when you're looking down in there, you can get a punch like that, then just locate it on the bearing down inside. So effectively what you're doing is, I'll just show you on this one, you're just putting the punch down, you're just resting it on the inner race there of the bearing there. Obviously the other way to do it, if you haven't got a punch, then if you get yourself a deep drive socket and then drop down in there like that, and then use that to get the bearing out. So you put it in like that, and then you can put a little extension on it, piece if you want to, and then you tap that through like that with a hammer. So you just put an extension on it like that, and then just hit that down, and then the bearing will start coming out in here. So you only use one block of wood because the bearing will come out of the bearing of the seat without it interfering with the block of wood. Also, this is a 13mm socket, just in case you're wondering what size it is. So like I said, you just put that in there. Hit that out. There's the bearing there out of the drive side. So now you're left with a empty hub. So you can just clean that up, wipe any old grease and dirt out of there, clean it right up, and the axle as well, and then get yourself another couple of new bearings. Always use quality bearings as well, don't use any cheap ones because they just don't last 5 minutes. So with your new bearing, what you want to do, and by the way I'll put the sizes in the description for the bearings below, just in case you need to purchase a couple yourself. So what you want to do before you put the bearing in is put some grease around where it's going to sit in the hub. And do the same for the opposite side. Put some grease around in there. And then with your bearing, on the side that's going to be down inside the hub, what you don't see, we'll put a cone of grease over that, just to help keep the moisture out. And then just put a smear around the outside of the bearing, like that. And then what you want to do is just lower it in place. And push it in. If you can push it in, just to seat it in there, making sure that it's going in square. It's not going in crooked. And then, if you've got a press the correct size for the bearings, then you go ahead and use a press on them and press that one in there. If you want to go ahead and shell out for that. If you don't, then we've got a 19mm socket there, which is exactly the same size as the outside of the bearing. So you can just hold that in place on there, like that, and then making sure it's going in square, tap that in place. Just keeping an eye on it, making sure that it's going in square. Then what we do is just carry on tapping it through. So there's the bearing installed in there. Just make sure it's seated all the way in. Make sure it spins nice and free as well. So once we got that one in, we're ready to put the axle in and the opposite side bearing. Right, so with the axle itself, before we put it through, just where the free hub's going to go, just down the bottom there where the bearing would be, just put a bit of grease around there before we slide it through. And again on this end as well. And then what you want to do is pick the hub up. This is the drive side. Just pick the hub up like that and then put that back through like so, and push it all the way through until it stops like that. So we're going to do this side with the bearing. So now what you want to do is put your wheel down between the two blocks of wood like that, so the axle's going down through. Obviously make sure the blocks of wood are tall enough so the axle isn't making contact with the floor. And then with your bearing, again, the side that's going to be facing inside the hub that you don't see, just put a little bit of grease over the face of it like that, and just put a light coat around the outside, and then we'll sit that in place. See, what we do is just go over the axle. You just drop it over the axle like that and drop it in, just sit it there like that. And then for this side, get yourself a 18mm socket. And again, just locate it over the bearing again, making sure you're hitting it in square. And also never hit where the black seal is, or the coloured seal on the bearing, depending on what bearings you've got. Always hit on the outside. The socket is the same as the outside diameter of the bearing, so you're never hitting where that seal is, because you'll ruin the bearing before you've even put it in. So just be careful of that. Make sure you're holding it and it's not moving. So that's that bearing installed in there. So go ahead, we get the end caps and the free hub back on. So what we do is we get the free hub back on. Before you put it on, just put some grease over the axle itself and just on the end on the threads there. And then with your free hub, make sure you got your spacer. Just slide that on the axle like that. Then your free hub body slides on like so, and just to get that to engage, just pushing on it and rotating it anti-clockwise at the same time, just to get it to click in. So that's that. And also make sure when you're doing that, there's a seal that goes on there that sometimes gets stuck in the hub, you see there. Just to make sure that seal is present when you put it on like that. So what we'll do is we'll get the opposite side put back on. So to do that, just make sure you've got some grease on the thread there, and just put a bit over the face of the bearing while you can see it. And then the seal that was on there, so the flat part goes outwards. So you just put that back on over there like that, push it in place, and then you've got your end cap. So I'll just keep hold of the axle this end and just screw that on. And then what you do is you get your 10mm and put it in the end of the axle on the drive side, and then with your 5mm hex head, just literally just nip this end cap up. If you over tighten it, it's not worth overdoing it because it's not going to go anywhere. Just nip that up because it's obviously it's located in your frame when it's actually on the bike. So if you over tighten that, what you do is with these, because they're aluminium, the caps, if you over tighten it, what you'll do is you'll just round that off and then you're stuck then. So just nip that up. Then we move back onto the drive side. Get your end cap and just screw that on like that, all the way in. And then again, to nip that up, you just need your 5mm hex head in this side, and again your 5mm, just hold it on the opposite side, then just nip that up like that. So there's the bearings installed. So you just give your wheel a spin, make sure it spins nice and freely. If you want to know how to change the free-hub bearings, then what I'll do is I'll just put a link on the screen for that, just in case you're wondering how to do that as well, if you want to give it a complete service. So I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more cycle related content. Till next one, ride safe and I'll see you then.